as another indication of the bipartisan support for the people of Iran. We've had the chairman of the Foreign Affairs Committee, Mike McCall of Texas, Republican here, and now we have Congressman Gerry Connolly, the former president of the NATO Parliamentary Assembly, of another political party from me. And so it's bipartisan. Congressman Connolly.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for the collaboration you and I have experienced over the years, making common cause with our allies in NATO in a terrible, depraved war in Ukraine. Ms. Maloney, the horrors of the prospect of Iran becoming a nuclear power have been enumerated here in this hearing. Was there ever any attempt to kind of roll it back and prevent that from happening?
I believe that the joint
Speak up, please, into the mic.
Yes, I believe that the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action was, in effect, an attempt to contain and to begin to roll back Iran's nuclear advances. Had it been implemented in full, had there been an opportunity, as everyone who was involved with the deal had envisioned, to negotiate a follow-on agreement that would build upon and strengthen the provisions of the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, I believe that we would be in a much stronger position with respect to Iran's proximity to nuclear weapons capability.
Would it be fair to say that that agreement was the first time Iran sat down with the Western allies and the United States in particular to agree to anything since the revolution?
The first time since the 1981 Algiers Accord that freed the hostages in Iran.
Now, was that agreement, the JCPOA agreement, was that ever certified in terms of compliance?
Iran was complying with the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action.
And that was certified by the IAEA in Vienna, is that correct?
That's correct.
Multiple times?
Yes.
And in case somebody doesn't want to trust an international organization, am I correct that it was also certified twice by the President Trump State Department?
Yes, you are correct.
Oh. And that was in all respects, was it not? With respect to centrifuges, with respect to the amount of enriched uranium that had to be shipped out of the country, with respect to lowering the rate of enrichment allowed, and with respect to the plutonium production reactor. Is that correct?
Yes.
So we actually had a vehicle, and it was working, and they were in compliance. And what happened to that vehicle?
The Iran nuclear deal.
You got to speak up.
The Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action has collapsed since the withdrawal by the Trump administration in 2018 and the reimposition of sanctions in contravention to our obligations under the deal.
So some of these people who were so quick to talk for a kinetic solution conveniently overlooked the fact that we had a non-kinetic solution that was working and that was pushing Iran back from that nuclear threshold by many, many, well, in some cases months, in some other categories years. And now we're faced with very few good options. Is that a fair statement?
We have far worse options today than we did in 2015 or in 2018 when President Trump exited the deal.
And one of the biggest critics of the JCPOA before it went into effect was the Prime Minister of Israel, Mr. Netanyahu, who actually came here to Washington and spoke to a joint session of Congress, snubbing the chief executive of our country, President Obama, and agreeing unilaterally to an appearance here by one party's invitation. And he claimed that this was so important, so existentially threatening that it transcended politics. Do you remember that speech?
I do remember.
How long has Mr. Netanyahu been Prime Minister of Israel?
Cumulatively, I'm not sure I have the math offhand.
I think it's 13 years. Longest serving Prime Minister. And in the early parts of his tenure, if he was worried about the existential threat Iran posed, do you believe that he could have had a kinetic option to himself at that time? An option, by the way, Israel has in fact exercised in other nuclear situations, Syria and Iraq, to wit.
I don't believe that the Israelis could conclusively eliminate the Iranian nuclear program alone.
I'm talking about when he first became Prime Minister. The options were better, were they not?
They were better.
And did he exercise the kinetic option?
He exercised considerable covert options, but not the sort of military strike.
He didn't go to war with Iran. He didn't bomb Iran. Though we hear some voices here today, apparently, thinking it's okay for the United States to do that in a much more complicated, difficult, and certain to be costly situation if we resort to violence. Would that be a fair statement, do you think?
That is a fair statement.
I think it's something we got to contemplate, and I think we have to take responsibility for the past. A lot of people who opposed JCPOA were proved wrong. They didn't cheat. They, in fact, complied. It was certified by IAEA and by the Trump administration itself, and we walked away from it. We did that, not Russia, not Iran, and we need to take some responsibility for that in trying to repair the damage we caused. I yield back.
Thank you very much, President Gerry Connolly. We now proceed